Welcome back to Beauty Marks Podcast. My name is Elizabeth Savillon, and welcome to another episode. Here we talk about all things healing, embracing our story, and cultivating community. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. All of that helps us to grow, as well as I want to read a review from someone that has left one recently. It says, one of my faves. Your podcast has helped me in my journey of healing, and I always learn so much listening to your podcast. Thank you for always being vulnerable and sharing your story. Thank you, Adalee, for sharing that and your thoughts. And I really appreciate when you guys give me feedback, if it's through DM or if it's through the podcast. I am trying to hit 100 reviews on Apple Podcast. And I would appreciate it if in the next few weeks, as you listen, if you can just go to leave 5 stars, as well as just leave me a few words of what you are loving or an episode that really impacted you. As well as I am here at Hi Hello Labs in downtown Orlando. And if you have any podcast, content creation, as well as an event, this place is the best place in Orlando for creators. And so make sure to follow them, as well as I will put all their information down below. I am actually hosting an event here on June 13th, which is going to be a podcast panel live with an amazing speaker. I'm so excited. She's actually been on my podcast before, and her name is Danielle Bayard Jackson, and she's a friendship expert, and we're going to be talking about all things friendship, creating healthy relationships and friendships, connections, just kind of how do you navigate conflicts within friendships, as well as making new friends, deepening your friendships if you already have a group of friends. And so it's going to be a great time. We're going to have amazing vendors. We're going to have a coffee cart. We're going to have a charcuterie station. We're going to have appetizers, kind of like a happy hour in the beginning. The doors will be opening at 5:30. And then the event will start around like 6:45. And so we will be doing, we'll just be having a lot of great things. So don't miss out. Make sure to follow us at She Cultivates ORL, as well as buy your ticket before tickets prices go up. On today's episode, before I say anything, I literally had a wardrobe malfunction today. And I feel like this is not the best shirt to wear today. I had this like green linen like top. I had like this whole vision for today's outfit, and I usually like think about it like the night before. I plan on my outfits to bring, and it just didn't, like work out. I ended up ironing it or steaming it at home. Went in the car, drove over here to downtown, and then when I came in, it was like wrinkly. Like, I'm like, what happened in the car? And literally I tried to steam it twice here in studio, and it still looks like I just rolled it up in a ball, and literally nothing happened. Like, it looks the same. And so it was not the best. And even Carlos was like, oh, I thought that was your prep shirt and you were gonna change. So yeah, it's been one of those days. But you know what? Little life update, that's going a great segue into how life has been. Because I feel like the highlight reel, as much as I've been posting very consistently on social media, and if you follow me at Elizabeth Sabi or on TikTok, like I have had so much growth, and I want to thank you. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, that you found us. And so as I've been posting consistently and trying to show up, that is social media. Like, that is what people put on social media, what they want you to know or they want you to see. But there are still challenges that people face that maybe you do not hear about or do not know. And so I kind of wanted to do a little life update, and then we will go into a Q&A portion of other questions that you guys had. And so I first want to say that I am so grateful for, again, like all these good things that have been happening. With this being going into almost my 4 years of this podcast, I have seen significant growth, and I had like 4 videos go viral on TikTok like in a month. And so it has been surreal because I'm like, oh my God, all these people are like looking at my content and I have to post stuff. And it's like, you just kind of want to make sure that you provide value for the people that are following you. And so I've been really trying to do that and stay consistent. And that was one of my goals starting this year. And when my goal overall in the year was to hit like 10K on social media, and I literally hit that in like a month. And so that was just such a blessing. I'm super grateful, and I'm just so thankful that the content that I've been sharing in the past month and a half has been helpful to you, and that it really makes you feel like you're less alone. That's really what my why is behind this podcast, and even why I'm sharing these like behind the scenes now of like what's really been happening, because I feel like we can glamorize certain people's lives or what they post, or like, oh my gosh, she looks like she's always dressed up and like always doing this, and like she's, and I never want to seem like an unrealistic, standard. It's like, even today I posted like my day of like my breakdown of like what I was doing today. Like, I did my Devo in the morning and worked out and got ready and had lunch, and kind of like what my day would look like. And I had a friend that she's like, oh my god, I wish my days looked like that, like that's a perfect day. And I'm like, no, this is like my perfect day today, but yesterday was completely different. I did not do nothing because I had a family crisis, and I pretty much had to cancel all my plans and not do what I had to do, and I ended up working late because of that. And then I ended up getting back, responding back super late, and I still have a whole bunch of emails I haven't responded. And so yesterday felt like I did nothing with my day, like meaning, but at the same time I was handling something that needed to be done. And so that's why you cannot always focus on what people post, because that is everyday ebbs and flows, So what has really been happening behind the scenes that I haven't shared has been very difficult, because I feel like, as not only as a woman, is just like challenges within your body and your skin, especially how I have been posting content of, in front of the camera this month, and then pretty much since January, I've been having like skin flare-ups. And so I officially was like diagnosed with like rosacea from a dermatologist. And so that's like redness, kind of like inflammation and irritation, very sensitive skin. But it honestly feels like my skin is on fire. And I get just like flashes of that, and it like doesn't go away. And before, I would never be someone that like feels self-conscious about like not wearing makeup. But I've had moments that I'm like, oh my God, to the gym, I want to put something on my face because I feel like it's like red patches all over my face. And even like I got like under here, like on the cameras, you can't see it as much, but it's like, I have like uneven skin, and like it just hurts. And I've even had like random rashes on my body. And so that has been scary to think, because now they're looking into like an autoimmune disease, and I'm going through some holistic, experts, and kind of trying to figure out with other doctors what is going on. And so I'm doing like a sensitivity test and other things that I don't ever really share about, and I haven't talked about it. I think I mentioned it maybe like early last year, and then I like stopped talking about it. And then the year before that I have been like dealing with that for about 2 years. No, probably almost 3. And so it's just very frustrating, and I feel I've cried about it. I have felt really insecure about it, just about my skin, or like trying to cover up certain things. I even have stuff like in the back of my arms. And so then I'm like, oh my God, it's summertime. I have to make sure that, it's hot outside, so I can't wear long sleeves like I would like to. So that is the reality. So social media, cute, we're here. But then at the same time, remember that lighting's a big thing in it, too. And so I just feel like those kind of challenges that I have been facing, that is hard, because I feel like sometimes it's like, I'm like, am I too stressed? Irritation of certain things. I've had to limit certain fragrances, and I love perfumes, and I love like certain things that I've had in my lifestyle for such a long time. And so now having to cut back certain things, not eat certain foods, like it's just been hard. And the other day, the doctor was like, you know what, maybe even like stopping to drink coffee altogether. And I was like, honestly, I think I will continue with the rash then, because I need my coffee. Coffee is joy to my life. Like I'm not going to do it. So maybe we will get this resolved, but maybe it's going to take a long time to figure out what it is. So Um, I'll keep you guys posted, but I also feel like there's parts of my life that even though I share a lot of certain things, I do share a lot of things that I've overcome, and things that I have like walked through, but not always stuff that I'm processing still, because I want to make sure that I'm okay. And some things you do not need to share. Even as much as I do share, I also know that there's certain things that I will never share publicly. And just like my close circle is there for me, my therapist, my mentors, that I'm able to walk through that with. And so that's been a really big part. And then just kind of looking into like the bloating that I've been having and certain things like that, which again, like just how you fit in your clothes and like how you show up. And I don't have the insecurity of like my body anymore. Like I don't, like I feel like I show up, but at the same time, you just know that you don't feel good like within your body, and like because you feel like uncomfortable, and it's just like a consistent thing that you're experiencing. So I'll be figuring that out. And as well as 3 weeks ago, my fridge at my house broke and we have no fridge. So literally we've had like a cooler, and I haven't been able to like meal prep like I usually do and to have my certain snacks that I have. And so that has made me feel even worse. So we're still trying to figure that out. That's been its own thing. And I'm telling you, like I told my friend, I'm like, I feel like if people knew all the stuff, like the behind the scenes that's really happening, it would be like, oh, like your life is not as glamorous. I'm like, no, it's not. Like we're just regular people here. Um, and then something else has been like a little bit hard, or I would say the hardest part. We've been going through like a family crisis with one of my family members, and it's been very hard and very sad to walk through. And as a family, like we're just figuring things out, and I don't know if I'll ever share about it, but that has been something that I when it comes to family, setting boundaries or being that person that is like the go-to that helps out with everything, like I am that person. And so I have felt like the weight of that. And so I have been trying, but it's just hard because life has just had to, like yesterday, like I had to adjust my schedule of certain things and cancel my plans, and like because of something that happened that was out of our control. So those are things that have been really happening behind the scenes, that it's not all glamorous. It's like I saw this post that said like your bad days are still part of your good life, because I do think I'm super blessed and I do have a good life. Like I'm so good, but there are still challenges and things that we walk through. And even with this month in April, I started sharing like the weekly joys, because honestly, that was like to help myself, because I'm like, honestly, I don't feel like it's been so good, with certain things that have happened. However, like I want to focus on the good and focus on the joys, things that are bringing me happiness and helping me, that are still good, that, time with my friends, time with my family, dancing salsa, like going to celebrate my friends. I did like a content day with some local creators, which was amazing. And all these opportunities are so good in the midst of some hard days. So if you are in that season where you kind of feel like, I have a lot of hard days, you are not alone, and just because maybe you don't post about it or you don't share about it, which you don't have to, I just encourage you to find those people that you can share those things with, and that you can be authentically honest and real. And sometimes it is just a hard season that you're walking through. And so I'm just trying to focus on the good in the midst of it. And honestly, I know that God is helping me throughout it. And I also feel like the other side of like, I am so grateful for just what has grown in this month with like, the podcast and all of that. And when that happened, I actually like didn't know how to process it, because I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. Like, this is what I've been posting for 4 years. Eventually you want something to pick up, and eventually you want to see the reward of your work, and you want to see like the momentum. But when it was happening, it was like the imposter syndrome that comes, and you're like, am I capable of doing this? Like me, like people are listening? I don't know. And those are still fears that come up, and I'm still working through that. And as well as I think that what this taught me this month, it was like, God can do something in his timeline at the perfect time when you're ready. And sometimes we strive and we're always like, okay, I'm going to do and do. And it would just kind of like, God can turn things around and so much can change in a month, And so I feel like I held on to that of like, wow, so many things have changed in a month, with the growth of my podcast, but also he can do that in many other areas of my life that I have felt like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this and all of that. So I was talking to a friend about that. Like, when you leave it to God, he just got you, he's the one in control. And so what better way and who better to trust with your plans and your life and your dreams and your goals than God, and giving it to him and knowing that, thank God I don't have that much responsibility of having to control everything, because you don't, things will happen. And that's just been something that I've been learning in the season. And also, as you guys know, that I talk a lot about mental health. This month is mental health month. And so I will be having an expert at the end of the month talking about that. But that is very important to always keep in mind, even though they focus on like 1 month or like a day, of highlighting, but like focusing on your mental health and making sure that you're okay on the inside and the outside, because as much as the outside, we can tweak things, the internal parts of our life can show up and affect our relationships, our friendships, our jobs, even stopping us from living because we either have unresolved traumas or just things that we need to work through. And so you're not alone if you are struggling, but there are so many resources available to you. And I encourage you to do so. And I will also put all the links of different therapists locally, or if you need to talk to someone, as well as there's BetterHelp, which is a great way to access from home. And that has been so life-changing. I will never stop going to therapy. I go literally twice a month. And that is my way of also making sure that I'm taking care of me versus everybody else. Because sometimes I get into the art of helping and assisting. And then I'm like, I'm fine. And then I'm not fine. So that is something, just as much as we check on ourselves for other areas, our mental health is important too. So I'm going to be doing a Q&A of a few questions that you guys asked. And so a lot of them are like on the topics that we have been talking about. So, and someone did ask, how are you at this moment? And so pretty much life update, there you go. But the first question is, would love to hear your take or a podcast episode on people pleasing and navigating through with partners, friends, families, or professionally, when sometimes you don't know when to speak up for yourself and or set boundaries. That is so good. Thank you for asking that question. I actually am going to have an expert that talks about people pleasing, which I'm so excited about, because I feel like a lot of us struggle with that. And like, how do you even start? But again, I am not a therapist. I'm going to share my opinion of things. I would say what has helped me kind of move that is starting to understand what boundaries are and what are your needs. So like, what is your capacity when it comes to, let's say, your family, right? Like that's a really big one that a lot of people struggle with. It's like, okay, if they tell you, hey, tomorrow I need you to do this, like, I need you to cancel all your plans because this is what I need you to do, like to do a favor. And realistically, you cannot do it. You know that if you take on that task, you're either going to be late to work or you're going to have to be running around or stressed. That would be something that you can let them know, hey, like I would love to help. However, I already have plans that I cannot change, but I can help you in this way. Or can someone else assist you? Or I can help you find someone else to assist you with that. I feel like sometimes helping comes, I know for someone that like has asked this question, you're probably someone that like is that natural, like you go and help and assist people. And so sometimes it's very hard to understand that some people have to figure it out on their own, and it's not mean to do that. It's actually so good for you to be honest with them and tell them your capacity and not take on other things that you know you will not be able to do. I think a lot of resentment comes sometimes from when we overcommit or start taking on other people's problems as our own and taking the responsibility, because then we take on the consequences as well. And so I think that that's always something to, like, when someone asks you something, don't make an impulse decision of like, yes, I have to tell him right now. It's like, let me think about it, or let me get right back to you. That way that you can kind of like go in your head and be like, all right, so is this really do I want to do this? Do I have time to do this? Can I really help them? Or can I offer them other people that can help them or guide them to reach out to someone else, versus me having to do it? But again, I think that that is a deeper issue within ourselves of like where that people pleasing came from. Why do we feel like we can't say no? And in a previous episode with Maria, we kind of talked a little bit about that, about like sometimes it's just so hard when you've lived your whole life people pleasing and saying yes to everything and overcommitting, that is so hard to not do that. And so I'm going to deep dive into that one later on this month, but I hope that that helped. Number 2, the question was, I was in a trauma bond relationship and I am now on day 6 of no contact. I'm so afraid to fall in love again. I still want my ex to come back and still have hope he will. Will it ever get better? So first, I want to tell you that I'm proud of you for doing 6 days no contact, because it is hard. Even one day, you're like getting the withdrawals and you're feeling like overwhelmed with like, I want to talk to them, and the sadness. And because you've been in this cycle for so long, it is very normal to even expect them to come back or want them to come back. But at the end of the day, I want to reassure you that you made the right decision. There's a reason why you ended no contact, and maybe you've already been in this cycle for so long, and it does get better. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my episode where it's like the beauty of starting over, where myself and other people that have gotten out of a toxic relationship shared like the post of how it is. You know, I've been out of the relationship for over 3 years now, and it was so hard to break off, right? Like the breaking up, but also then the no contact. And then the feelings were still there, even when I was no contact. And then you eventually get to a day that like you just don't cry about them anymore. And you just don't feel the same about them or even the topic of them doesn't trigger you the same. Like, and I never thought I would be there, but I had to take that one day at a time. And so how you're on day 6, then it's like, all right, let's make it to day 7. Let's make it to 30 days, and then go from there. And understand that you are still human, and your attachment to them or the feelings that you have won't go away right away, but you are more in control than you think you are. And by taking your power back, you will start feeling better by focusing all the energy that you put on them on you. So I am rooting for you, and I know that you got this. Number 3, how did you stay out of the toxic relationship? That kind of goes with what I mentioned in the previous one of, I feel like you have to really guard yourself from those vulnerable moments of going back. And so I never will say that I did it perfectly, because I did not. I ended up going back. I would answer calls. I would kind of just like be like break no contact, and it would go from like, all right, I broke no contact for 1 month, but then the no contact then I didn't talk to them for like 3 months, but then I would talk to them again. And then it was like, okay, now I didn't talk to them for 6 months, and then it would go again. Like, and I feel like that's still healing and that's still growth, but I always knew that I was not going to go back. So even if I interacted with them, I always knew that like my no was no. Like I feel like when they say like, you do. Like, the day that you will not go back ever again. And even if I would talk to them, I just knew my desire, because I saw it clearly now. Like, and that's why the key, and I'm telling you, the most important thing is the awareness and the education of yourself, because then you start seeing it for yourself. And when you start seeing it for yourself, you can hang out with them And it's just not the same because you see the pattern and you see the manipulation, you see the gaslighting, you see how they're talking to you, you see how it is, and you're like, wow, you're playing the game again. Like, am I going to choose to be blind to it, or am I going to actually continue moving forward? And so having that awareness, but also not allowing windows and opening doors for you to go back. Like if you know that person is a huge part of just being able to, like, one conversation that's going to lead you to end up in a relationship with them again or end up at their house. Like, you have to create those barriers where you don't do that, or have the accountability and know that you won't do it perfectly, but it's always going to be your choice of when you're done consistently making all the choices that needed to be done to continue to move forward. Number 4, how did you start healing? So that's like a really big question, like a really long answer, but I'm going to kind of sum it up. I feel like I had to start working on myself for me, and to want that change for myself versus doing it to get him back, or to be better for like the next person. Like, I feel like I had to start focusing on like my needs, because I had lost myself for so long. And I have talked about this on like years ago about like why self-love is so important to me, is because I did not have self-love. And I always told myself like, yeah, you love yourself, but no, I did not love myself, because I was in relationship with people that continued to show me that I wasn't lovable, and that continued to tell me that in different ways. And like, who you choose to be your partner, I feel like is a big reflection of how you love yourself. And I felt like those actions that I was taking was just self-betraying myself, and I was not valuing myself. And so I had to start figuring out what my needs were, what my voice was, what I really desired and wanted, not what I wanted because this other person wanted. And so I feel like once I started doing that, that's when I invested in myself, of like my mental health, my therapy, my community, my, like working out and doing things for me, my wellness in general, versus trying to focus all the energy on someone else. And through that, I started finding that joy and that hope and like that peace and that healing. And I was like, wait, like I want to continue investing in this, because I'm seeing that I'm getting better, and like I feel like I'm doing better, and I like myself again. Like, so I feel like that was a huge part. It was like starting to focus less on them and other people, and like actually on me. And so I feel like then I was able to work through my healing, because I saw that I was worth healing for myself, and that it was going to be so good for me to then be able then from there show up and do what I do today. So invest in yourself, because it is worth it. Another question is, how do you handle sharing things of your life and vulnerability? So I think that what I was sharing earlier of like choosing what you say, but also knowing that, is this helping people, or is this just like sharing your drama and your tea just because, I know that there are podcasts out there that are like that, like, they get the clout and it's fun, but I think you do have to be wise and understand that vulnerability is more to allow and give a space for someone else to feel less alone and to feel like that they can open up. That's more genuine and authentic, but you can't force that. So sometimes people want to overshare and feel like that's like a fake closeness, but you're not really being vulnerable because you share that with everybody. So that's not vulnerability. Vulnerability is like this hard stuff that you feel like, ooh, if someone knew this, like, would they disqualify me from this? But at the same time, you know that like this is going to be helpful because it'll help someone else feel less alone, and that it'll be helpful. I feel like then those are moments that it's like when you have like a heartfelt conversation with someone, versus, when you're having a conversation of someone that you're like, did you even experience that? Like, I'm confused. Like, or they're just trying to overshare their whole trauma on the first time you meet them. And you're like, whoa, didn't need to know that. Like, or like sometimes it's even people that say like, oh, I'm an open book. I feel like sometimes that can seem like you're being vulnerable, but it's actually sometimes just over communication or oversharing, in my opinion. And this is my humble opinion. And that's just something that I feel like just having that wisdom to know what things you want to share it, knowing that you do not have to share it with everybody, and knowing that even if you share things, it's always going to be for that one person. And that's why I always say that, like, if one person can feel like they got something out of it, or feel like, wow, I resonate with that, like, that is what it's for. It's not for people to be like, wow, so vulnerable. Like, I don't know. It's just changing that mindset from like trying to make vulnerable moments to actually like you being genuine and authentic to it, and knowing that people need and desire actually that from people that's more genuine, but also people can know when it's not. So I would definitely say discernment is a really big one on that. And then the last question, this is kind of like a relationship question, so I'm going to answer it in the way that I think it would be. But so it says, being emotionally immature and what that looks like in a relationship. Examples of when both partners are emotionally immature, one emotionally immature, and then one emotionally mature. How can you get over that or work through that? So what I'm understanding from the question is like, you're dating someone that one person is immature and one is emotionally mature. I would say, what does mature look like to you first? Because I feel like emotionally mature for me is someone that's like able to work through things, and like emotions don't overwhelm them, that they don't shut down, that they can have those hard conversations. But I think that a lot of us don't know how to do that. So I wouldn't say that someone's emotionally immature because of that. Maybe they just don't know the tools. And so I feel like maybe it's understanding like, how can you communicate or get over that barrier that's holding that person from being able to have those conversations. Because even for myself, I feel like I was emotionally immature before, like in my relationship. I don't think that I was like the maturest person and the most wise like person emotionally, and like has so much awareness. I think I learned that over time because I started investing in that. Like I would start reading and like learning and like in therapy, and like learn tools that can help you in relationships. So I would say, you can encourage someone to do that, but also you can't control someone else and how they navigate their emotions. So I would say the more you learn about those things can encourage and help you navigate how you respond to their emotional immaturity, if that makes sense. So that is my suggestion to that. Another question is, do you believe that breaking up or separating to work on your issues individually helps the relationship? So I would say that this like reminds me of like taking a break. I did it before. It would be like, okay, we're gonna like not talk for a week and kind of see, what comes of it. Like maybe if we don't focus on the relationship for this week, then we'll see if we like, get better, and we'll rekindle in a week and see where we're at. But I feel like if there's no like intentional work being done during that quote unquote break or separation, then I don't think it's gonna work. But at the same time, every relationship is different, every person is different, and I know that sometimes like you're just not able to have the availability or the capacity to take on a relationship in the season that you're in. And it's healthy that you do take a break. But it's kind of like our episode that we did with It's Complicated Relationships. You also want to make sure that that person's being intentional and communicating that, not dragging you on, not like, all right, you guys don't talk for a week and they're partying or you're partying and you're sleeping with other people and you have no like direction and intention. And it's like, oh, well, back again, like here we are. And then it's like, but what about the communication issues? Like, did you work through that? Like, how about like you said about your trauma stuff? Like, how about that? Or your anger issues, like, are that, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like you have to make sure that if it's a break, then it's intentional for what you guys are working on individually. And that usually is not done in a week. So realistically, it might be like a month to 3 months. And actually knowing that, like, just because you miss someone or just because all of that, that doesn't mean that, okay, that's the relationship that you have to be in. No, sometimes like that break is actually going to show you that maybe that's not the person, or maybe this is not the relationship for you. But then also, I've also heard of couples that do take that intentional break and actually work on themselves and actually like focus in on that. Then they're able to come back as like, all right, this is where I'm at. This is what I wanted to do, and being clear. So I think that clear is kind. And so being clear in that quote unquote separation, but don't let someone drag you for a long time, or don't let someone put you on hold, because I don't think anyone, guy or girl, should be put on hold for someone else, because at the end of the day, like, at the end of the day, the person that wants to do the work for themselves is a person that will show up in a healthier way, regardless of time. So it's not going to be, oh, I'm doing this for you. It's like, no, I'm doing this for myself, and I want to be healthy for myself. And if we work out, I want that because I want to be with you. But also, like, if I work on myself and at the end of the day you find someone else and all of that, like, I wish you the best. So I know that that's difficult, but those are just kind of just my thoughts on that. So those were a few questions I wanted to answer today, and just kind of give you guys like a life update. But I really hope that you know that through every conversation, and however I can encourage or educate, like, definitely let me know any topics that you would like to hear. For this month, we will still be talking about like mental health. And then next month is our 4-year anniversary of this podcast. And so we are doing the podcast party as well as some special episodes. So I will be also doing a Q&A more on just my podcast in general and just things that I have walked through in these past 4 years, because again, highlight reel versus reality. Just because what you see on social media does not mean that that is everything. So I hope that when you come to this podcast, you also feel like you can be human and have those unaesthetic things. I like aesthetic things, but my life is not always aesthetic. And that's okay. Sometimes I don't feel 100%, but like how I said before, your bad days are still part of your good life. And so I'm just excited to hear back from you guys, as well as if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with someone else and tag me on social media at Elizabeth Savvy. I hope to see you guys next week. Have a good one.